A tactical lever to break the Middle East deadlock or, according to Israel, a terrorist state on its doorstep. A two-state solution seems more controversial than ever. The UK has announced it's joining France in recognising Palestine. The move comes against the backdrop of a UN conference on the issue. Is it, as the US and Israel argue, an unproductive publicity stunt or a pathway to peace? It's up for debate on Counterpoints with me, Melinda Nusafora. The promise of a Palestinian state has been on the diplomatic horizon for about 80 years. And yet, after all that time, it couldn't feel further away.
The path to peace and regional integration. It will be achieved through our independence, not our destruction. Through the realization of our rights, not their continued denial.
Establishing a Palestinian state today is establishing a Hamas state, a jihadist state. It ain't gonna happen.
The UK has this week joined France in announcing it will recognise a Palestinian state come September, albeit with certain caveats. The Prime Minister says statehood must be linked to future peace and stability. Hamas needs to release the hostages, disarm and accept it will have no role in a future government. If it doesn't, recognition can be revoked. The US and Israel argue any move towards statehood is a reward for Hamas and punishes the victims of the October 7 attacks. On this episode of Counterpoints, we'll debate: in the current political climate, is a two-state solution achievable? Is Palestinian statehood a reward for Hamas, as Israel claims? And will international recognition help bring about long-term peace? Stay with us. To discuss the implications of international recognition of a Palestinian state, we're joined by Ahmed El-Ibrahim, a Saudi political and geopolitical expert on the US-Saudi relationship. Tobias Ellwood is joining us, a Conservative MP and Minister in the UK, former Minister in the UK Ministry for Defence. And rounding out our panel, Dr. Ariel Ben Solomon, a Middle East expert and former Middle East correspondent at the Jerusalem Post. Gentlemen, welcome to Counterpoints. Thanks for being here. Saudi Arabia and France have been co-chairing a two-day conference on Palestinian statehood at UN headquarters in New York. Their stated goal for the conference is to find a pathway to recognising Palestine that would be a progress in the steps taken for a Gaza peace deal and lay foundations for future regional stability. The US and Israel aren't taking part and have dismissed the conference as a publicity stunt. In another sign that a two-state solution is off the table in Israel, the Knesset recently voted in favour of a non-binding motion calling for the annexation of the West Bank. So, Ahmed, let's start with you. Given that past efforts to move forward with a two-state solution have failed, why is this diplomatic push at the UN different? What makes it different this time around?
First of all, thank you for the opportunity to be here. Let me be clear. Saudi Arabia is trying to push this kind of peace deal because they are looking for justice, they are looking for dignity, they are looking for an international law. As everybody knows, for the past 75 years, the Palestinian people has lived without any kind of freedom, any kind of dignity, no ground principle for them. Saudi Arabia have supported since 2002 the creation or the establishment of the Palestinian state and the East Jerusalem, its capital. What makes it different that Saudi Arabia, after what Israel has been doing to the Gaza people and the I call it the genocide of those people, matters need to be taken in hand. This private mediation or the exclusive mediation has been done by the United States, does not work anymore. It does not actually moving anything on the needle. Nothing is going to move by the United States unless the gates of Tel Aviv approve it. So Saudi Arabia has recognized that and started taking this initiative and lobbyists the West and the friends of ally toward the human and to give the dignity to the Palestinian people, nothing more, nothing less, hoping that this thing could stop this genocide it's been causing and the unfair justice and unfair alienation for the Palestinian people, whether they are Hamas or not Hamas. They are getting killed. We've seen kids at a gunpoint in their forehead by snipers from the IDF. All these kind of things has moved and take the pressure in Saudi Arabia and the GCC countries to push, to lobby through their friends and allies in the West to try to find a solution for the Palestinians to voice their concerns and their issues in the United Nations.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Ariel, what's your take on it? Steps towards a two-state solution have failed in the past. How does Israel view this current diplomatic push as being different this time around?
Well, first of all, I would like to counter the claims of genocide that the previous commentator made, as it's obvious to anyone who has seen a real genocide in the world, in the Holocaust and in what's going on in Syria with hundreds of thousands being murdered, that what's happening in Gaza is a different kind of operation. And from the Israeli perspective, there is absolutely, only on the fringes, there is any acceptance of a Palestinian state. So the vast majority of the public in Israel is totally against it, especially since October 7th. You could make a case before October 7th, there was maybe, a slightly more support, but now it's very low. Only the fringe parties, Meretz and the far left parties are supporting it. And even the left-wing parties in Israel are now against the Palestinian state. And most importantly, Trump is also against the Palestinian state. So I don't see that it's even realistic to talk about it. It's just more kind of the commentators on TV like us talking about it, and the French president and others with little influence what's going on. So it really doesn't matter what everyone's talking about. The Palestinian state is not going to happen. Israel won't let it happen. The US is not going to let it happen. So that's basically the viewpoint from Israel.
Okay.
Well, Ariel, this is a small seed. Back 10 years ago, if anybody on the Senate would say anything in the Congress and the Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., if any politician would say anything of what we're seeing right now on the media or what's happening on the ground in France and saying what they are saying in Israel, they will be fired from their position because of the influence of the AIPAC. However, today we are 2025 and Israel has lost all publicity around the world. The whole world is mad about the Israeli government. And I'm not saying that all the Israelis are part of what Netanyahu government is doing as genocide again in Gaza. However, this is the start of it, and it's going to continue, and it's only going to expand. And the Palestinian people, they're going to get their rights and dignity sooner or later, and this is only the start.
Tobias, let's bring you in here. What do you think? Is it unrealistic, as Ariel has said? Is a two-state solution dead in the water now after the events of October 7 and what we've seen since in Gaza?
It's certainly in a very, very difficult place. And this is one of the reasons why the international community, including Britain, is actually considering the recognition of Palestine, almost as a wake-up call to say, look where things are going. I was the former Middle East minister. I promoted the position that recognition of Palestine, which can only be used once, should be done as an act to help facilitate the objective of securing that two-state solution based on 1967 borders. Otherwise, it's just symbolism. But I would concur with the comments so far that what's playing out is changing the calculus. As Israel pursues its right, absolutely, to take on Hamas after those barbaric attacks, but is doing so with the absence of any strategy to convert its military successes on the battlefield towards stability in isolating Hamas politically that could actually lead to a two-state solution, let alone a ceasefire. So I would actually go further to say that the Arab states, including Saudi Arabia, wants to help rebuild, wants that two-state solution, but the Prime Minister himself, I'm afraid, is no longer interested. We see that in the illegal settlements in the West Bank, blasting the Gaza Strip, talk of you just saying that the vote in the Knesset as well to say let's annex the West Bank. And we're now having to see Britain airdrop to go against the famine that's taking place. That shows that there is no effort at all to distinguish between the Palestinian people and Hamas. So this wider recognition is a wake-up call to say, let's not lose sight, because that window is absolutely closing. And I should stress, because this is a debate in Britain very much so, that somehow if you're calling for recognition, you're somehow endorsing Hamas. Nothing could be further from the truth. Hamas itself doesn't recognize Israel, doesn't want a two-state solution. The question, therefore, is what technocratic governance structure might be put in place to actually allow a sense of purpose, of peace, of stability in Gaza. And this is just not even been discussed at the moment. And we've lost sight of that completely, which is why everybody's so demoralized in thinking where this is all going to go.
We are going to absolutely come to the point of whether recognition of a state is a reward for Hamas. But sorry, Ariel, I interrupted you there. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, again, this is totally like dream talk right now. Nobody in reality, nobody is talking about a Palestinian state. Even the leaders of Saudi Arabia, the leaders of the Arab countries, they're not even in favor of this so much. It's just for public consumption. And if you even
that is not true.
If you ask Palestinians themselves, they want to leave. Palestinians themselves, they want to migrate out of Gaza. If you ask Arab Israelis if they would live in a Palestinian state or stay where they are, they would prefer to stay in Israel. So there's no grassroots support for this. And to say that there's a difference between Hamas and the Palestinian government, they both support terrorists, they both pay for terrorists. It's two sides of the same coin. And basically what's going to happen is that President Trump, Netanyahu, and the leaders of the Gulf states are going to find a solution that is short of a Palestinian state. And that's what's going to happen despite verbal rhetoric otherwise.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Ahmed,
very
what's your
sad
say?
For me to hear what Bin Salman. It's very touching to my heart that you are actually saying this. I feel bad for any human that's got killed in October 7th, but you are reinventing what your ancestor has went through in the genocide of the Holocaust by the German. You are replicating it, and you're making it so valuable for you just because you are Jewish, just because you're Israeli. You can do it to anybody. Listen, extremism grows where hope disappears. And this is what Israel has been doing for the Palestinian people. Give them the dignity and the occupation. Make them, don't give them these kind of humiliation, and all these problems is going to go away. And if you think that the Palestinian is dream, then you are dreaming, my friend. If you're not seeing what's happening in the universities in the United States, that they are going against every possible thing that Israel is doing in Gaza, okay, it is very obvious. Everybody in New York, even the Hasidic Jews in Miami and in New York, they are going against Israel and against Netanyahu's policy against killing innocent people. Regardless, if you're living in a bubble, this bubble is going to be finished soon, because you have to live a reality. We're not asking to Israel to be vanished. We are asking for a Palestinian state that is deserved and dignity for the Palestinian people, and the West Bank stays, and Gaza stop killing people in Gaza and kids and women. This is what we're asking for. If you have an issue with that, then I think you need to revise your morality, because I really don't think that you represent a lot of the fellow Jews in Israel on what you're basically saying over here.
Ariel?
The overwhelming support for the war. The support in the streets in Israel, everybody is supporting the war. It's a defensive war. It was forced upon Israel. And this genocide lie is just, it's absurd.
Tobias, I'm going to get a reaction from you as well, and then I'm going to move us on.
Well, my big question that I pose to those who are no longer interested in a two-state solution is, do you really think the status quo will work? Because what you're calling for, therefore, or rather accepting, is the fact that the proxy influences promoted and supported by Iran will continue doing their thing. And you're leaving Israel then.
Iran and Qatar.
Well, whoever it might be, sir, let me finish my point. You're still saying you're going to continue on roughly as we are now. That is not in Israel's long-term interest. And I understand how bruising, absolutely, what has happened in recent terms. There's no doubt about it. But the bigger strategic picture is not there. This is why even Israeli military leaders are critical to say what is Netanyahu's policies. What is happening is absolutely damaging Israel on the international stage. And so this is the question I pose. Where is the plan? Today, Israel could start, because it owns and runs Gaza, it could take a section of southern Gaza or northern Gaza and start rebuilding with the support of the Abrahamic Accord signatories to help building communities that are free from Hamas representatives. That is what can happen today.
Israel's not
Please let me finish.
build Gaza.
Please let me finish. Sir, please let me finish. Otherwise, we talk over each other, okay? So that could be a viable plan that removes Hamas, because they're not really operating now apart from behind the scenes. IDF controls most of the strip itself, and you could easily then have a plan, and that would split Hamas from the population of Palestine, who would then see that there is potentially a vision as to where Gaza might go without Hamas.
Ariel, what's your response?
You guys are stuck in the old paradigm of the two-state solution. It's gone. You guys are talking like 10 years ago. Maybe you could have talked about it, but not now. It's too late.
So what do you propose instead? If a two-state solution is dead, Ariel, where do you go from here?
I'm not even declaring it. It's just in reality, Israel's not going to let it happen. So that's a fact.
Then
And Trump is supporting.
But then what? If Israel's not going to let it happen, what will Israel do instead? Because obviously this current situation can't continue.
Okay, so first of all, there's the Trump plan of voluntary migration of Gazans outside of Gaza, and this should go forward. There's the talk now in the recent days of Israel annexing
Ethnic cleansing.
Go forward.
Ethnic cleansing, you're saying.
We'll just let Ariel finish, and then I'll get each of you gentlemen to have a response.
Migration with the help of some, quietly Muslim states to voluntarily migrate Gazans out. And then there's going to be annexation, and hopefully there'll be annexation in the West Bank. And this is where things are going right now, contrary to the views that are expressed here. And there's really nothing that this talk can do, because also it's in the interest of the Gulf states and the states that support stability against Qatar and Iran. There's Saudi Arabia, there's the UAE, there's states that are supporting stability, and quietly they're going to back Israel because Israel is the strong horse in the Middle East, and it's going taking actions against radical elements supported by Iran and Qatar. And quietly, a lot of Arabs, Jordan and others, are supporting Israel. But, they voice genocide and stuff on the TV screens. But behind closed doors, there's a lot of support for Netanyahu's government.
Okay. Ahmed, let's go to you first for a response.
I'm really baffled by the point he's making. I think you are not on the ground, Ariel, with all due respect, my friend. The Israelis, they are going to come into terms. This is only the start. If it's going to take now or 50 years from now, this two-state solution is going to happen, and it's going to happen more faster than what you think. People want to live in peace. The Israelis want to live in peace more than anybody else. I think they have a prosperous nation. They have good business. They can be integrated within the GCC and within the Arab countries. I think these kind of conflicts and these kind of ideologies that you are facing is basically making the Israeli people living in harm rather than living in peace. We are nations in the GCC and the Arab countries. We are looking for peace. We've never had any issues with Jews or Israelis. Okay, the only people they displaced the Jewish are the Europeans, and that's why you've been displaced from Germany. And the people who did the Holocaust to you are the Germans, are not the Arabs. But you're taking your angers on the Arab and the Palestinian people that they are not powered. They've not done anything. It's a pure occupation. And this is actually what makes, the whole region or the level of acceptance of the Israel going down every day because of the Netanyahu government. I am one of the people who made my first interview in I-24 before the Abraham Accord, looking for peace, normalization with Israel, and trying to get into terms to have a peaceful region, and talking to my friends from Israel and Jewish friends about the policies in the region. Today, I'm telling you, I am not interested until we come into terms with this government that you have and give the Palestinian people their dignity. And basically, this is the position of Saudi Arabia and the position of the rest of GCC countries. And if this is going to continue, the Abraham Accord is going to be pulled one by one. So this is the matter on the ground. Whether you like it or you think killing people who are not Jew is civilized, I don't think this is the voice of many of the Israeli people.
Israel's not killing people that aren't. We have Arab soldiers in the IDF. It has nothing to do with killing people that aren't Jews. It's killing terrorists that are attacking you. There's Arabs, there's Christians in the Israeli army. There's Bedouin Arabs in the Israeli army. It has nothing to do with killing non-Jews.
Jews all over the world. That doesn't mean that gives them the right to kill people. This is ethnicity has nothing. We are talking about morals. We are talking about civilization, my friend. If you don't know civilization, if you don't know dignity and how to give people dignity and how not to kill innocent people and not to basically punish 9 million Palestinians, this is not right. I'm with you. Saudi Arabia, since 2005, they claim that Hamas is a terrorist militia since 2005. And guess since 2005 until before October 7th, who are the paymasters for Hamas? It's Israel. You guys funded Hamas. You guys used to pay the government employees, yes, their salary. So I'm telling you, you don't kill everybody just because of few people.
Okay. All right. I want to throw it over to Tobias because we're going to need to keep moving on. Tobias, what do you make of some of the points that Ariel and Ahmed have said? We've got two G7 countries now who want to recognise Palestine. Will they allow this voluntary removal from Gaza? Will they allow Israel to annex the West Bank? What's your take on what you've been hearing?
Well, I have to say I'm so saddened and indeed upset to hear Ariel speak in these terms. And I'm pleased to say that the Jewish community here in Britain doesn't support the annexation of the West Bank of 3 million people, does not support the annexation of Gaza or indeed removing people from Gaza.
The Arabs,
2 million
the
people.
Arabs if they would support annexation.
Okay, Ariel, I'm going to come back to you in a moment. Just let Tobias finish his point. Thanks.
Just this bigger picture, just think it through. As I say, we understand how bruising this has been, absolutely. But the strategy here is absent, and it's dangerous, and it's going to lead to a Middle East war. And this is the bigger picture that Israel needs to think about of what is in the long-term interest, because you will alienate the entire international community, including America, because even Donald Trump saw those pictures of real starvation, mentioned it in his press briefings, and Netanyahu's testing his support. It's becoming ever more conditional. So we need to get back to the point of how do you then allow the Palestinians to be better represented rather than by a terrorist group. And absolutely right, that does include countries like Saudi Arabia, but particularly Qatar, not supporting them and providing a secular alternative. That's where we need to go. Otherwise, you go down this one-state solution, that's war.
Okay, I want to bring up a graphic for you all to have a look at. And Ariel, I'm going to ask you first for comment on it. Take a look at what we're going to bring up on the screen there. It's from the Pew Research Center, a non-partisan US polling agency. It asked people in Israel if peaceful coexistence with a Palestinian state is possible. And currently, only 21% of Israeli adults think there could be peaceful coexistence. And you can see over the years, actually, this graph goes back for more than a decade, actually. We may have cut off the years at the bottom there. Arab Israelis are slightly more optimistic, but still only 40%. It's not a great indicator that a two-state solution would even work. Ariel, let me ask you, who or what is responsible for this breakdown, for that graph to continue its downward trajectory across all ethnicities, across Arabs, Jews, Israelis, everyone in Palestine, in Israel?
Yeah, so basically October 7th is the turning point. Before October 7th, you had the left center in Israel supported a Palestinian state and many of the mainstream figures. And after October 7th, even like people on the left became hard right, Israel defenders such as myself, and everybody has become, moved to the right. The whole Israeli political dialogue has changed completely. What you said is correct. There's almost nobody that's supporting a Palestinian state now. It's totally off the table. And that's why it's not going to happen. And any talk that is going to happen is just, wishful thinking. One of the plans that is put forward for many years is Dr. Mordechai Kedar in Israel, talking about, a family type of arrangement with the Hamulas, where, the local tribal leaders or the local, family leaders in Hebron, in different places, they can have, local autonomy, but not, a state apparatus. And this works quite well in the Gulf states where you have a tribal type family leadership structure. And I think this is the model to go on. It's more fits the culture of the region than, putting a political platform which is funded by foreign forces to try to, manufacture leadership. I think using the indigenous, family Hamula ties is much more a successful strategy. And I think Israel maybe is going to move towards that.
Ahmed, what do you make of that as a strategy? But I also want you to comment on those statistics that decrease in belief that there can be peaceful coexistence. How do you change the will of the people?
I mean, obviously, this is a normal outcome after the Gaza war and the West Bank, having a far-right government in Israel. People are skeptical about, Israel really trying to strike a peace. A very low confidence in the American administration to help to fuel this, because we all understand Israel without the United States, it's a different Israel. The Arab minority, probably they want to be coexist, but they're having their hope. So the graph basically reflects the collapse of the public faith in the two-state solution. And the narrative among the Israelis is that's not going to work, like our friend, what he's, basically preaching. Without a major diplomatic or political still and will, the public opinion may soon become a structural barrier in order to have this. And this is to what your dear guest just mentioned, that this area could go into a war. Israel is surrounded by 350 million Arabs. It is better for everybody to coexist and live happily and benefit economically from each other. Especially we come from, our father Abraham, and we need to basically, give the dignity to each other. And this is the mandate of giving peace and dignity is not a Saudi mandate. It's a human mandate. Any human would like to give other people their dignity. That's simple.
Okay, the US and Israel have been critical of the Saudi-France conference that's been going on in New York, and also very critical of the recent countries recognising a Palestinian state. I want you to take a listen to this recent comment from US President Donald Trump as he was returning from Scotland.
Well, you could make the case that you're rewarding people, that, you're rewarding Hamas if you do that. And I don't think they should be rewarded. So I'm not in that camp, to be honest. We'll let you know where we are in, but I am not in that camp.
Mr. President,
because if you do that, you really are rewarding Hamas. And I'm not about to do that.
Tobias, given that the UK is the most recent country to have recognised Palestinian statehood, is it a reward for Hamas, as Israel and the US president there have alluded to?
Well, President Trump is right in saying that Hamas should not be rewarded. And the interpretation is false, in my view, because the two are not connected. You need a strategy that takes us to this two-state solution via recognition of Palestine that does not include Hamas. When you wrap Hamas in it and say it's all a big bundle, you're completely missing any effort to actually remove Hamas from the equation. And I'm sorry, but the evidence on the ground, the operational evidence on the ground, is the fact that Hamas is rewarded every single day by the attacks that are taking place in ordinary Palestinians who are made to suffer. When Britain, as I stressed, has to drop aid in just to support ordinary Palestinians, you can understand why, in their anger, they end up, it works as a recruitment sergeant for this extremist operation. Where is the alternative? The alternative needs to be crafted. And no wonder, therefore, people in Israel are dismissive of any future possibility because everybody is so harmed by what has actually happened. But I stress again, American leadership is critical here. But Netanyahu has taken full advantage of the top cover, of the fact that Trump has less interest in global order as a whole, let alone in the Middle East. And Netanyahu has had free rein to do whatever he likes. But all he's got, because of his own personal situation, I should stress, is the fact that he doesn't want a strategy for southern Lebanon, doesn't want a strategy for Gaza. It suits him because if the war stops, then he will come under his own scrutiny. So all his strategy at the moment is for more war.
Has overwhelming support right now. Netanyahu will win in a landslide in the new election. He's very popular right now.
That doesn't. That makes my point even more important. The fact is that even you describing this in terms which I'm still coming to get my head around, that you want to annex the West Bank, 3 million people, that you want Gazan people to leave so you can have that territory. Do you not understand how that looks on the international stage? And Trump won't be around forever. I can assure you that.
Looks?
But
we don't care about looks.
If this is where
all right, Ariel, your response to that?
We don't care about looks. We care about staying alive. And to stay alive in this region, you have to be strong and you have to defend
with
yourself.
war, you won't stay alive. With more war, you'll end up more Israelis killed.
State won't change anything. The attacks will continue. Remember that the Palestinian people voted Hamas into power. The Palestinians,
when?
Civilians.
How many years ago was that? How many years ago was that?
We'll just let Ariel finish his point there.
Palestinian civilians took part in October 7th and many terrorist attacks since and before then. So this is not an issue of Hamas and not Hamas. This is a Palestinian issue where they're supporting terrorism, the civilians are supporting terrorism, and Trump sees the solution as voluntary transfer, annexation, and I think that's the way that things are going to go. A Palestinian state will not cause utopia. It will just make the tensions even more strong, and Israel will not allow this and allow a Palestinian to have their own army and to have their an airport and bring in more terrorist supplies. It's not going to happen. It's a dream.
So, Melinda, what happens on Trump's statement, basically, it got lost in translation. And the US government basically is politicizing the issue. If you look at the Democrats and if you listen to the statement of Hunter Biden praising, the Palestinians and siding with the Palestinians, of course, his dad is one of the biggest supporters of Netanyahu, especially when October 7th happened and supplied them with weapons and everything. And basically the white phosphoric bombs that killed kids, children and women in Gaza. So now it's being politicized. It's basically for the Democratic Party to have an end say and to basically take the tenderness of the American voters, because they are calculating in 1 year time the mid-election until the next presidency. So this is on the internal US front. On Trump himself, he has probably he has a patient and he has like time for Netanyahu. But if he has some requirements that it need to be done and it need to be executed It takes him 24 hours to basically flip over Netanyahu, and things are going to be done on the ground. So I wouldn't take home basically the cover that Trump is giving 100% to Netanyahu. Let's not forget, the past presidency and what Netanyahu have done, and not basically supporting Trump into the election of 2016. And this is what caused the election of Trump to fold, to lose to Joe Biden. So anyway, having said all that, the matter has started, and the ball has started rolling. Saudi Arabia is going to lead this file for the Palestinian, and they're going to gather more people. If it's going to take a day, if it's going to take a year, it's going to happen. And today we are way milestones from 10 years ago when no people want to discuss Palestine. Today, Palestine is on the table. It's being discussed daily. And I'm not talking about militias. I'm talking about the dignity of the Palestinian people, and give them the right government, give them the right dignity to live freely, neighbor to neighbor with their Israelis. And this is how we see this region prosper. If there is anything not within the state solution, then war is going to strike in this region. It's a very simple math.
Ariel, what do you make to a point that Ahmed was making there, that President Trump, I think Tobias as well, is not going to be around forever? Can Israel continue on the track it is without US support?
Yeah, that's a good question. And that's why it's even more urgent for Israel to move now, to move towards annexation of areas in Gaza and the West Bank, Judea and Samaria, to do that now under Trump, and to take all these actions now to prevent a Palestinian state from ever coming into existence. And I think that Israel government is aware and wants to take advantage of the time and to move things quickly, and to work together with Trump to fight radical elements in the region. And now, a lot of people are saying that there's going to be a war if there's not a Palestinian state, but we just had a war, and now the radical forces are in retreat. In Hezbollah in Lebanon, Iran, Qatar, they're all in retreat right now. And the Hamas and the Palestinian terrorist groups, they're all in retreat right now. And this is, the chance, to put the final nail into these groups and, to take control. And now Trump's there, and I think this is a great opportunity.
Ariel, you will never have peace. You don't understand. Without justice, what you're saying is a dream. Without peace,
it's not true. It's not true.
You cannot normalize occupation. You cannot silence nation into peace. Justice from one side and ignoring the other side cannot happen. I know where you want to reach. You want your people to live in peace. It won't happen. It won't happen unless you have these structures, these elements you need to give to the Palestinian people. It's a fact. It's a fact. You will not live in peace. I'm telling you.
Why are the Arab countries lining up to make peace deals with Israel since the latest war? All the Arab countries are talking to Israel about making normalization deals now, after the war.
The normalization has a foundation. The normalization does not come without a foundation, without a dignity for the counterpart who is living your neighbor. If you gave the dignity since 2002, King Abdullah, late King Abdullah, asked and put the proposal on the table for the Israelis. Put a Palestinian state with East Jerusalem, its capital, and all the countries since 2002. They will normalize the proposal on the table, and it's still on the table. The only people they did not decide to take this proposal is the Israeli government. It's a plan. It's the flag of the Knesset.
Normalization
if you look at the two waters, we do understand.
Lebanon, with Syria. Syria is not going to happen, but let's say Lebanon and let's say Saudi Arabia and other countries, and this is going to happen without a Palestinian state.
Ahmed, is normalization going to happen without a Palestinian state?
Never. This is the foundation of Saudi Arabia. No normalization without two-state solution. at the end of the line.
Okay, just a moment, Ariel, because I want to bring Tobias in here. What do you make of this argument? There's been a lot of talk about, is this the right time for recognition? Is this the right time to be talking about a two-state solution? But we have Ariel saying this is the right time for annexation because we have a sympathetic president in the White House. What's your take on that, Tobias?
I really just think this is cloud cuckoo land and so dangerous. And there's a reason why Netanyahu himself has not said this publicly, because the international community would condemn this. And as I say, it's an absolute recipe for war, as well as being internationally illegal. And it's just interesting that we see Hamas's forces are absolutely weakened. Let's agree with that, as is Hezbollah and to some degree the Houthis too. Iran, the proxy backer, is being constrained. The IDF is in full control of the Strip. Unfortunately, we're now seeing famine break out there, but there is no strategy whatsoever to leverage the fact that the very organizations and terrorist groups that have caused such problems in securing us two-state solutions, now all on the back foot, we're not taking advantage of that moment. Instead, what we're doing the other way around, we're actually leaning further in to say, let's destroy any opportunity for a two-state solution, which will lead to further insurgency. Absolutely, that's what's going to happen. And I'm sorry that you don't understand that. I think the wider Israeli population and certainly the Jewish international community absolutely sees that. It's in Israel's long-term interest to have a peaceful, secular two-state solution.
Will lead to more violence. A Palestinian state will lead to more violence. The absence of a Palestinian state is keeping people alive.
You don't know that. You absolutely.
Well, it's certainly not, the status quo at the moment is certainly not getting anyone anywhere. Let's move on because we're going to head into our third and final segment before we run out of time. Currently, about 147 of the 193 UN member states recognise the state of Palestine. That's about 3/4 of the international community. And yet, the conflict in Gaza continues without a ceasefire on the horizon. Both France and the UK say they see recognition as a lever, as a tool to pave the way for lasting peace. Tobias, I know we were just hearing from you, but let me ask you, first of all, before I come to Ariel for a response, explain to us why the UK thinks that recognition is a tool that can help rather than hinder a ceasefire in Gaza.
So we've just covered it to some degree in the sense that that window is closing, because if it is the direction of travel that Israel chooses to go in the annexations, then it's gone. So the calculus has changed. So presenting this on the table now is waking everybody up to say, let's actually focus back on the end game of where we actually want this to go. That's not dismissing what's needed today on the ground because of the humanitarian aid to get in, but also more critically, as I've stressed, some method to remove the ideology of Hamas. And perhaps this is the message that I say to my Israeli friend here. And we learned this in Northern Ireland, but we saw this in Afghanistan with the Taliban, and we saw it in Iraq as well. You can't defeat an ideology through military means alone. When was Hamas created? Back in the 80s. When was the Hezbollah created? Again, a couple of decades ago. They've been hit hard. They regroup because of that philosophy exists, and nothing politically replaces it, because all you're doing is trying to remove them, crush them through military means alone. So this recognition is about this wider picture, working internationally. Britain stands ready to help Israel, as does the international community. And actually, Israel has pushed countries aside until the point where we've had to force ourselves into help with the aid drops. But we want to help Israel secure peace. We won't do it, though, if the two-state solution is then lost. The entire international community will fragment.
Okay, Ariel, what's your take? The idea that international recognition, the countries recently have argued, is a way to help end the current violence, and then a conversation can be had after that. Do you think international recognition helps or hinders the pathway to a ceasefire of the current violence we're seeing?
the international recognition of a Palestinian state is hurting the negotiations to release the hostages, and it's making an agreement more difficult because Hamas leaders themselves are quoted as saying that this new effort by France and the UK, etc., are showing that their strategy is actually working, and that their attacks on October 7th and all of this terrorism is actually working, because now they're going to be rewarded with a state.
No. I'm sorry to interrupt, sir, but you cannot say that somehow that France or Britain recognizing Palestine somehow automatically assumes that Hamas will be in charge. Can I make that really clear? Hamas has lost any sense of responsibility to lead anybody. It's a terrorist operation. So make that really clear. Stop repeating the idea that somehow recognition is license for Hamas to stay in charge. It's not true.
So, Ariel, it is one of the prerequisites of recognition from the UK, as stated by the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, that Hamas must disarm and it must have release the hostages and have no future in the future governance of Gaza. So with that in mind, how does it hinder the pathway to a ceasefire?
The Palestinian state talk hinders a ceasefire because it gives extra motivation to the terrorist groups, Hamas, and the Palestinians themselves, that terrorism is getting results. And that the more that they don't release the hostages, the more that the international community is going to give them. And this needs to be rejected. If the international community would reject the Palestinian state and isolate Hamas, then this could happen. And regarding the talks of famine and genocide, this is nonsense. Israel is going beyond all previous wars in feeding the enemy, which has very high opposition in Israel, that Israel keeps giving aid to the enemy because all of the aid is ending up in Hamas's hands, and they're keeping control by getting the aid and the gasoline and everything that's running their cars and keeping the war going. So,
okay, that has been disputed by various medical and humanitarian agencies. But to bring it back to the point at hand, Ahmed, I'm going to bring you into our discussion here. 147 countries already recognise a Palestinian state. 2 more. Is this going to make any difference to what's happening on the ground? Because it hasn't made a difference up until now. So is this just symbolic?
It is definitely a move forward. It's going to take a great deal of time and effort, basically, to move that needle. But again, I think the whole world, the whole human beings, all of us, your viewers, everybody is committed to peace, stability, and prosperity for everyone. We want everybody to live in peace, especially for our region. But peace needs to mean something. And I'm telling you, in order to live in peace, it has to mean something for you, and it must. Comes in recognizing rights for people. Maybe this is new for you. You need to give rights to other fellow ethnicity. You need to give rights to other people with different religions. Rights for people with different opinion, political opinion. It does not mean it's either me or the highway. I'm telling you, peace, forget about peace if you're not going to do these kind of pillars for those people. Palestinians have to live in free environment, dignity, security, with a state for themselves, and you have to coexist. My friend, if you don't coexist,
peace will come with victory. Peace will come with victory in the war.
There's no victory. There's no victory. If there's a victory, why don't you go to Germany and claim victory against the people who actually did the genocide of the Holocaust of your ancestor? Why you are claiming victory of people on kids and women in Gaza and West Bank? I mean, we've known Israel only existed 72 years ago. It's not right.
Okay, Ahmed, I'm going to give Tobias the right of reply there. Ariel, right of reply from you?
Yeah, so I don't think this is true at all. All this talk about killing children and this. The whole war of Israel is aimed at terrorist groups that attacked it and continue to attack it for decades. And all of this talk of genocide and starving people, this is totally outrageous and not what's happening. And Israel is defending itself against enemies that are trying to kill all the citizens in the country. And
defending by bombing a Shifa hospital, by bombing hospital. There is no one hospital left in Gaza. I mean, I don't understand I don't know how do you explain defending by attacking hospitals? This is new.
The terrorists are using the hospitals as a base to attack Israel.
They are not. And it's all in the record. It's not. It's not.
Okay, Ahmed, we'll just let Ariel finish his comment, and then we'll come to you for a response.
As soon as Israel will have complete victory here in Gaza, there's going to be more peace. If you allow the Palestinians and Hamas to rebuild, it's just going to perpetuate the war for years to come.
Okay, Ahmed, response from you, and then I'm going to come for a final word to you, Tobias.
If this is what you are basically your strategy, and many people like your strategy, then it's going to be for a long time. The war is going to be for a long time, and remember, you are outnumbered by Middle Eastern and countries and many population, and having the best weapons is not going to buy you your freedom.
Tobias?
People the rights and dignity.
So I go to the strategy as to what Israel's pursuing here. And General Petraeus, who knows a thing or two about counterinsurgency, he wrote the manual: clear, hold, and build. You clear the ground, you hold it, and then you build it. And what Israel, the IDF, is doing is search and destroy, and then abandoning it. So wherever Hamas is in the rubble, what Israel's tactics are not following experience over decades, going back to Vietnam, Korea, and what we did in Malaya, and he did Afghanistan and Iraq, where huge mistakes were made. If you want peace in Gaza, you clear, hold, and build. And when you're doing the building, I go back to the point, you could compartmentalize areas, build new communities after sifting through the IDs of the people there, making sure you've got all your Hamas characters. And that's where the international community, the Arab Accord signatories, can then come in and help rebuild. That would be a strategy. But no, all Israel is doing, the Israeli military is doing, and the Israeli leaders and military leaders are speaking out against this, is just destruction and nothing more. And that's not how you defeat an ideology. And I'm sorry, Israel, after the years, decades.
I'm going to come to you for a final word, Ariel. Tobias, you finish up, and then we'll go to Ariel.
I'm just saying that after decades of experience, they should recognize that we learned in Northern Ireland, you don't defeat an ideology by military means alone. It's not enough.
We're almost out of time. A quick final word from you, Ariel, before we finish.
An ideology can be defeated. In World War II showed that Nazi ideology could be lost. Islamist ideology. That was
unconditional surrender. That was unconditional surrender. You're not going to get it here. They weren't wanting to die to go to heaven for a fast track to paradise if they got killed.
Well, it looks like
it's a different ideology, Nazism. You can't compare the two. Can't compare the two.
The Iranian state is now turning against Hezbollah, and Hezbollah is on its way out, and it doesn't have the backing of Iran. So it looks like the military victory is working.
Okay, gentlemen, we're going to have to leave it there. It's been a really interesting debate, and all of your insights have been really valued to us here on Counterpoints. We like to bring our audience all sides of every story. Ahmed Al-Ibrahim, Saudi political and geopolitical expert on the US-Saudi relationship. Tobias Ellwood, a former Conservative MP and Minister in the UK Ministry of Defence. And Dr. Ariel Ben Solomon, a Middle East expert and former Middle East correspondent at the Jerusalem Post. We appreciate all of you here on Counterpoints. And thank you to all of you watching at home for joining us here on Counterpoints. You can, of course, catch all of our latest debates and special interviews by subscribing to Al Arabiya English on YouTube, and be sure to follow us on X and TikTok. We'll see you next time.